back. So today we have the pleasure to be joined by Mr. David Arraya, Director of Operations of the Hotel Jerome in Aspen, Colorado. One of the beautiful hotels of the Auberge Resorts Collection, and at the same time it's one of the historical jewels of the city. So thank you so much, David, and welcome. So David, just for our students to get to know you a little bit, I would like to ask you if you could tell us a few words about yourself. How did you become the Director of Operations of the Auberge Collections?
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. Thank you very much for allowing me to do this. Again, my name is David. I've been in the hospitality industry for about 15 years. I am originally from La Paz, Bolivia, and I went to an international school growing up, right? So after high school, everybody in my school, or a large percentage of the people that went to my school, left and studied abroad, either in Europe or the United States, so or in other countries in Latin America. So it was very normal within my small social circle for people to go abroad. But I'm the fifth of six boys, and so by the time I came around, my parents couldn't afford to send me to college in the United States and to pay for my education in Europe or the United States. And so I needed to find an alternative to get me out of Bolivia. And that's how I found a cultural exchange program that put me in the south of France in a small town called Sète at a very early age and working. And it was a year of hard work and living where I worked. And I landed in a resort and I fell in love with the industry. And that's when I knew that I wanted to study hospitality. So after my gap year in Europe, I returned to the United States. Well, I went to the United States to study hospitality, and I went to school in South Carolina. And then from then I started my career. I've been with Auberge Resorts for 3 months, and I had the pleasure of opening their new hotel in Austin, Texas, before coming up here to support them as the Director of Operations.
Yeah, I mean, you probably learned a lot during that time. 18 is really young age to go that far, and I mean, it's probably a really different culture, essentially two different worlds, I can say.
100%. Yeah, even from from a language perspective, a cultural perspective, having come from a very kind of easy upbringing, right, where I had a lot of things, to then being on my own and not having a lot of money and really having to be very measured about how I did things, being 100% independent, right? Didn't have any support around me outside of course, the people at work. And so it was a massive learning. And I noticed the difference much later when I joined my first year in university. That's when I said, wow, this has allowed me to grow and to mature much more than having gone into school directly, right? I saw some of the other students in my first year classes, and I noticed a massive difference in terms of just perspective that I had on life and on what I wanted out of life. I had a lot more clarity than a lot of people that had no idea what they wanted to do, and they thought they wanted hospitality, but they weren't sure. And I was already laser focused on what I wanted to do.
So also I wanted to ask you, now you mentioned as well that this was a really big thing for you and it was challenging, but in general, looking back to all the different steps in your life, what was the biggest hurdle that you had until now? I'm sure there were a couple, but I mean, maybe the most significant one. And
yeah, I think I was my own biggest hurdle, really. I'm a very ambitious person and very hungry for success and growth, and I've always been that way. And I've always been very impatient. Since I was very young, my parents would say, slow down, slow down, slow down. And my answer was always, why? Why do I need to slow down, right? And there's nothing slowing me down. And so why that was a hurdle for me was because sometimes I went too quick and I made some mistakes, or I didn't maybe take into consideration other people or the whole picture, because I was so ambitious and I was a bit blindsided and narrow-minded in saying, okay, what's in it for me and how am I going to take advantage of the situation? without taking into consideration all the people and the things around me, right? And so that ambition and that impatience specifically, I think, was my biggest hurdle. And it caught up to me, right? If you look at my resume, I went up very quickly. And then I've been in this role as a number two, as a supporting or a director of operations, hotel manager for quite some time now. And I've come to terms and I've come to peace with that, because I've realized that I really needed to catch up on a lot of different things. And the only way to do that was to actually do the job every day, right? And to get the experience and the repetitions. And so that impatience caught up to me, but it was definitely a hurdle that if I had been a little bit more patient, who knows if I would be here where I am now, or higher or lower. But I've learned that, that patience is really is a virtue, right? And you have to consider it. So.